Greetings, comrades. I am Admiral Andre, and welcome to a different kind of video. This will be a more relaxing kind of video, not really a gaming one. Today is a very rainy, cold day in Cape Town, so I decided let's do this kind of video just as an experiment and see where it takes us. This will just be a very random kind of video. So if we just have a look, I am playing in the background at the moment. This is just, I searched for copyright-free jazz music, and we have this one playing at the moment. It's an hour 39 minutes long, and I specifically chose this because it means therefore it's not going to switch between different soundtracks that might be non-copyright friendly. So you can see the details here. Twin Musicom is apparently the person or the producer of this music. So we'll just put this in the background and go to our adventure for today. Now, of course, this is Google Earth in Chrome. Of course, Google products want to be used on Google browsers, but for the most part I use Firefox. So at any rate, we're looking here at the great continent of Africa. And we can actually see, I don't know how accurate the weather conditions are on this globe here. It doesn't say when the images here were taken. I assume they're pretty accurate because we can see a cold front here approaching Cape Town. And that is indeed the case, although I would say the cold front has already reached Cape Town. And this is how we usually get our rainfall here in the southwest of South Africa. We get these kind of systems passing by from west to east, and they have these kind of tails that sort of sweep over the country, and that is what brings our rain. And during the summer months, when of course the whole planet is kind of tilted differently towards the sun, so the south gets more sunlight, these systems generally move a bit more to the south. So we miss them, and that's why we have a dry summer. But in the winter, of course, this northern hemisphere is more tilted towards the sun. Of course, the planet keeps the same orientation always, it's just that it's on a different part of its orbit. Then these systems are forming and moving more towards the north, so we actually get them then. But not very far north. That's why this part of the country and of course neighboring Namibia is very dry. So it's just the very south part there that usually gets these kind of cold fronts, and that's why you can see it's greener there in that corner. The east of the country gets its rain in a different way, and that's usually from rain systems that form inland or more towards the northeast there. So that's why sometimes you can also get hurricanes. I don't know if it's a hurricane or a typhoon or a cyclone, which of those words is correct for the Indian Ocean. But we do sometimes, very, very rarely, have those kind of systems. But in the last year or so, there's been two devastating ones that passed over Mozambique, and then it comes down from the northeast, and it can also reach the northeastern part of South Africa as well, but we never get those in Cape Town. So at any rate, that's speaking about the weather there. I don't know how the weather is where you are today, but of course the world has its clouds and its sunshine, just like life in general. But let's have a look again here at South Africa. Now, of course, we have 9 provinces here, and I can't actually click on any of them on this map. On Google Maps, it's easier, I think, I'm not sure, but we can just search for it here. Western Cape. And the reason I want to do that is because it highlights the province nicely so you can see it. And now, of course, it's going to zoom us all the way out. And the interesting reason for that is not too many people, I suppose, know about that, but South Africa does have 2 islands in the Southern Ocean as well. You can see them right there. And that's about halfway to Antarctica. And they actually fall under the Western Cape Province, or they're part of the Western Cape Province. We'll look at them a little later again. But for now, we'll just go back to the main part of the Western Cape. And if we see, it usually says something interesting here on these sort of cards here. And now it's going to zoom us out, but that's alright. The Western Cape is a South African province which with coasts bordering the Indian and Atlantic Oceans. It is known for the port of Cape Town, and of course you can just click to get more information, like population about 5.8 million, but that was back when the last census was done in 2011, and some well-known places and so on. But let's go back. So just can close that again. Now the Indian Ocean comes all the way down, of course this is the Indian Ocean proper, but it comes all the way down to Cape Agulhas right here. Most people think that the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean meet at Cape Point, which is right here, and this is a very big tourist destination as well, although I'll have to admit ashamedly I've never actually been there. But the actual meeting point of the two oceans is here in Cape Agulhas, so the closest town to that is actually called Lagulhas, and Struisbaai and other towns like that. But this is where you would go to see the proper meeting point between the two oceans. We can actually look that up, just because. Indian Atlantic. Just want to see if they say anything like that. There's the thing, as they usually say, is Cape Point's claim to fame just tourism hype? Well, here they say not at all. We can just have a look, but it says there also the official place where the two oceans meet is Cape Agulhas, so just a point of information there, and that's down here. I guess this one is close enough if you just want to visit sort of the general area, but in truth it's right down here, since that is the southernmost part of South Africa. Anyway, that said, let's go to my city, Cape Town. I'll just type it in, or in this case we don't have to, because I can just click on the name there. And again, the benefit of this is we see the outline of the city area. Although this is the larger municipal area, which we can see also includes lots of farmland to the north, but most of the built-up area is right here. And of course the downtown area of Cape Town is right here. We should be able to see some nice 3D effects here. If we just tilt, of course it has to now load everything in, which takes a moment. But there we can see the downtown area of Cape Town. Of course it's not a giant city by any means, especially when compared to the USA or Europe. But of course its most famous feature is, if we just look to the south from this point, the Table Mountain in the background, so that is always a nice view. We can just close this. I want to drop down to anywhere in the city with the street view, just so we can have a look. Let's just go right there. And I picked that because of the fort here. Right, and most of it is blocked now because of these buildings, but anyway, if we look to this side, we'll see this fort that was built by the Dutch. This is the oldest building in Cape Town, and we can just go back out again and just tilt back to the north. I still want to see Table Mountain. Let's find another spot just before we get into anything else. And we zoom down here. And there it is. It's still blocked partly by buildings, but that is unfortunately how things go. But of course there is the mountain, and you can go up onto that mountain with a cable car. We'll visit that in a moment. I think it should be interesting, just again for a sort of random tour. But back to the fort now. Just go back to the north. There you can see it. This was built, we can actually look this up. In Cape Town we don't actually refer to it as a fort, we refer to it as a castle for some reason. Castle. So if you are ever interested in finding out more about it. So we can see there it was opened in 1679. The Dutch first arrived in Cape Town, or the area of Cape Town, back in 1652. So it did take a while to be built there. They actually say 1666 and 1679, so over a decade. And you can actually visit that today as a kind of a tourist destination. I don't know if we want to see anything else here. Images, all sorts of things there that you can see. I've been there several times, including with the school trip many years ago. But well, it's too small actually to see, but it does have a moat all around it. I guess that's why we call it a castle. But yes, so that's where that is. And interestingly also, this fort was closer to the ocean back when it was built. This downtown area was later filled up, sort of a land reclamation effort to get more land for the development of the city. We can see if we can find out anything about that. That was long before my time. The foreshore area. Built on land reclaimed from Table Bay in the 1930s and 1940s. I just know I remember seeing pictures like this one. It's very small, but you can see the general idea, where the city is not built out here but towards the ocean, and that's because that is all reclaimed land. So it's a very interesting thing. Anyway, now let's go to the mountain. That's one of the big tourist attractions, and I've also been there several times, so we can actually see it right here. And to get to the mountain, it's so nice that we can actually just tilt like this and have a look from the side. You basically have to drive all the way up here, this road that goes here, and then park on this part of the road, because the base station for the cable car is right there. And you can see, you can make it out. Of course, this kind of 3D view doesn't really show the details. Everything is a bit blurred on the ground, but you can see all the vehicles here. It's usually a struggle to get parking, but you can see everyone is parking for miles and miles and miles down the road. But there's also buses that go here, as you can see there. But so this is the big main base station. And then from there you take the cable car all the way up to this little, oops, just going a bit too fast there. But there's that little building there on the top of the mountain. And then you can spend a nice few hours up on the mountain here, and there's also a restaurant and souvenir shops which are ridiculously overpriced for obvious reasons, because of the view which we can even see here just in this kind of 3D representation. You can walk all the way around and see sort of towards the south, which is mostly more mountains, and then towards the west, the ocean, and then of course towards the north, where you see the city itself. Now, I don't actually live in the downtown area of Cape Town. I live much more inland there, but you can still see the broad general area. If I can just tilt down, it should be behind those hills there. So I don't actually see Table Mountain from where I live, but of course the city goes out all in that direction, sprawling all over the place. But anyway, very interesting thing also, if we just have a look now, I'm not too actually sure where is Devil's Peak now, and that is a very shameful thing as a South African, especially as a Cape Townian. Let's just have a look. So it's the one to the other side, right there. And what makes that interesting is there's actually a tale that I remember from a children's book many years ago, how it got that name. Because Cape Town, but specifically again Table Mountain, is very famous for a kind of cloud that you get that comes over Table Mountain, and it's called the tablecloth. We can just have a look at that. Cape Town. Cape Town's tablecloth, ancient myth or modern marvel. Let's just have a look at the images. You see like this, then the clouds kind of spill over the mountain there. And there's this whole story again in relation to Devil's Peak, where way back in the Dutch colonial era, the reason why there is this cloud is because I don't remember the guy's name. I should look up the story, but anyway, he got into a pipe smoking contest with the devil, and he thought he could outsmoke anybody, including the devil himself, and then they smoked so much that you just see all of this cloud still today. I want to see, where is that story? I can't remember where I saw that. I'm gonna try and find it. Why not? Let's have a look. Smoking devil story. There, Van Hunks, that's right, that's it. How Devil's Peak really got its name. Haunted history. There it is. A very interesting random thing I just thought of. Devil's Peak was actually called Windberg, or Wind Mountain, by the early Dutch settlers, but also known as Duiven Peak, Duivenkop, or Duivenberg, which is Dove Peak or Dove Mountain. Let's just see. Duivel is a malpropism for duive, devil for doves, basically. But there's also the story there. First connected the popular story of Van Hunks and the devil to Cape Town. In a chapter of his very popular book, he claimed the legend of Van Hunks was based on an old slave tale heard while gossiping, etc., etc. Just want to see. Well, you can read the whole thing here, but basically they got into a smoking contest, Van Hunks with the devil. Anyway, and that's why we get this tablecloth today. So just a random interesting fact there, or well, it's a fact that the story exists. It's not a fact that that's how it happened, but anyway, let's have a look around Cape Town. Just again, it's something interesting, you know, sort of a snippet out of my life or whatever. My specific part of Cape Town is Durbanville. I think I said that in a video a long time ago. But if we just have a look again, clicking on it, we can see the outline, which is a nice thing. This was also its own municipality back in the olden days, if I remember correctly, before the various parts of Cape Town all melted together into the metropole, or the larger metropolitan area. And Durbanville very much still has this kind of feeling of being a town unto itself, and that's one of its nice features, is it does have this kind of almost like a rural town feeling in a way, but it's still part of Cape Town. And it's also partly because it's surrounded by farmlands on most sides, which are still of course part of the city of Cape Town as well. So yes, let's drop down to the main street of Durbanville, just because I just want to see. The thing that I don't always like about Google Earth is when you use the street view, you can't really move around very easily, but we'll still try. Let's just jump down here. This is generally considered the main road, I would say. Wellington Road. So that is what it looks like. So you get lots of these smaller businesses all over the place, and of course, like any other town in the world, you have your gas stations, also have your foreign names. We'll see KFC and McDonald's right down the road. Of course, embassies of American culture here. So the thing is with this, I can only like tap on the keyboard to go down the road. I can also use these arrows, but it's just little steps, one little step at a time. With Google Maps it's easier, so let's use that instead. Just because. Right, so it does take me to Durbanville because that is where I am. And of course I'm not going to be too specific about my address for internet purposes. That's usually not the best idea. But let's see if we can just jump back down more or less where we were. Now, where are we? Oh, it's this parking lot behind the Spur, which is one of the well-known restaurant chains in South Africa. Let me just zoom out again. Just got one of the back roads there. There we go. Now this is taken, apparently, it says the image capture is July 2017. We're again in one of the back roads, but at least this is easy now. I can just click somewhere and jump to it. It's much easier this way. So again, just bear in mind then, if it does say 2017 here, it is not going to necessarily be up to date, but it will still give you a good idea of what it looks like here. So there's of course KFC, have not been there in many years. Cash Crusaders, there's the Steers, which is of course another South African food chain. Debonair's Pizza, they share this shop. I think they have some kind of a deal together. And if we just jump up the road, there's a Mr. Video. We still have these around town here. I don't know how many people still use them, because obviously I know in America many of these kind of video shops have disappeared. But we can see here, this is saying 2 new releases for 30 Rand. Well, let's see if that's a good deal. 30 Rand to dollars. I'm just going to put it into dollars. So 30 South African Rand equals $2. So you can get the 2 new releases for $2. Anyway, if you're still into that sort of thing. And again, I guess mostly that is because people in general don't really have very good broadband and Netflix and all of that, although it is starting to catch on, certainly in the urban areas. So how long these kind of shops will survive, I have no idea. Then we also have the Tuisbedryf, which is a what do we call that in English now? But it's like a cake shop where people in the community make cakes and cupcakes and all sort of baked goods, and then you can go and buy it there. It's like a cooperative kind of business. Then of course all the famous gas stations or petrol stations like Shell. This is the one I always use, so but luckily I don't have to drive too often because I work from home for the most part. And let's just go further down the road. But you can see it doesn't really feel like a big city, but it is still part of Cape Town, but it is a much more kind of a rural feeling to it, and that's why a lot of people tend to want to move to areas like this. Of course, you get your liquor stores and your butchery and deli and clothing shops and things like that. Let's go further down the road. Let's see just what we can see. You know, kind of a random video, I know, but it's a good one for a rainy day. I've actually got hot chocolate right next to me that's getting cold. Let me just have a sip of that. Always good. Anyway, this is like a tire shop with all sorts of automobile kind of maintenance things, batteries, exhausts, etc., etc. Let's go further down the road until we see one of the American embassies. And there you can see it. The Golden Arches, of course, McDonald's drive-through 24 hours. And I have to say, this is kind of a convenient thing to have, because we don't really have 24-hour outlets here in Durbanville, and it's generally a rare thing in Cape Town as a whole, I would say. At least it was a couple of years ago. For example, before this McDonald's opened. So sometimes late at night or just randomly I like to go there. Probably too much, but well, sometimes I guess you can have some fast food. Then this is kind of like the transport hub. This is where the buses stop that go to sort of downtown Cape Town and Bellville and other places like that. And you also get what we call a taxi rank, but this would be like the minibuses. This is the public transport that most people use in South Africa because it's relatively inexpensive. And ShopRite is one of the famous shops here, like a supermarket, but you can also see another one just up the road again. If we just see, this is so much easier. You just teleport down the road. Don't have to click the whole time just to jump little steps. But there's another one, Checkers, and of course they also have their own liquor shop. And then there's a Pick and Pay in this building right here with its own liquor shop as well, which is another sort of, a general shop, supermarket kind of deal. And Clicks, you see there, that is kind of like Boots in the UK. It has your sort of general toiletries and all that sort of thing. So that's also a good place to go. Tobacconist. I know my mother went to this place a few times, but she was not very happy with the service there, because I remember the one day, that was now many years ago, she was getting her cigarettes and all that here, which is of course not a good thing, because she did basically pass away from lung cancer. But anyway, so yeah, they were talking on the phone, doing personal calls and all sorts of things like that, and they just kept their customers waiting. But yes, that's not necessarily a good product anyway. Let's just jump down the street here. There you can see the post office as well, right there, and sort of just the general parking areas. This is of course out of date again. This is 2010 now, so it's even older. But if we just jump across the road, now it's 2017 again. Anyway, this area has been built up in the meantime. We can see they sort of fenced it off because they were starting to build here. This is now another shopping area. And this road has also been changed a little in the meantime. Anyway, let's jump back out again to the Eagle Eye. I'll just go back to Google Earth again. It's a nice thing again because we can tilt like this. So we can see there the place doesn't really have tall buildings. It's kind of, again, that kind of more suburban, rural feel. There's the public library as well. I've been there many times, but not recently. So let's have a look at the different schools, just because. There's also a race course here if you are into horse racing and that sort of thing. But I've never been there for horse racing. They used to have like a small market here also, certain times of the year. I don't know if they still do that. There's also a little nature reserve, but this is a very small place. But this is one of the few places you can still see the natural kind of flora that you would have seen in this area before it was developed. Let's just jump down onto a street view again, just to see what it looks like. So yes, it's not the biggest and most impressive nature reserve, but you can see these kind of shrubs and native plants to Durbanville and Cape Town in general, most of which here have been wiped out in favor of suburban development. But anyway, so that's also a good place to visit. And I just want to look at the schools because I went to them. The first one that I went to, and this was many years ago, so obviously there's no use stalking me at these places because I'm not there anymore. But this was the preparatory or pre-primary school actually. So this was before grade 1 even. And I remember this, they still have this track here, which is very interesting because we used to ride around this during break time on our scooters, just sort of to practice actually driving on a road, which is so strange because I have such a strong memory of that. Most of the rest of it I've forgotten, but driving on this road here is something I'll always remember. I don't know, it's a strange thing. But anyway, after that I went to the school right here, the preparatory school. This was grade 1, 2 and 3. Now back then we still called it standard, substandard A and B, and then standard 1. But that has been changed also a couple of years ago now. This is not a new thing, but it also makes it just easier to understand for the rest of the world. So grade 1, 2 and 3. Then after that I went to Durbanville Primary School right here, and that was for grade 4, 5, 6 and 7. And then after that I went to Durbanville High School, which was of course then grade 8 to 12. So that's basically that, and this one is close to the library as well. And interesting also, next door you get the municipality, which is of course where you go and pay your rates and taxes and all that sort of thing. But again, this has changed now. This whole parking lot looks a bit different, and the road here has been changed and widened a little bit as well. So anyway, it's not necessarily up to date, but it still gives a nice idea. Let me have some more of my lukewarm chocolate here. Right, so are we still listening to our copyright-free music? Yes, we are. Just have to be sure about that. But if you do see an ad on this video, you'll know it was because it was not really copyright free.